And welcome here to Talk FCB, and welcome to the review of Juventus against Barcelona tonight, which has ended 0-0 in Turin, meaning that we are now officially Group D winners. We will progress to the Champions League knockout stages as the champions of Group D. We're going to finish in first place. Hopefully that should give us an easier draw in the next round, but looking at some of the Champions League groups, that might not actually be the case. The likes of Bayern Munich could finish second. You look around the board as well, even Atletico Madrid, Roma, they're battling for second. Obviously we couldn't draw Atletico in the next stage, but there's a lot of good teams this season in the Champions League. But we have officially booked our visit there as group winners, even though we have only drawn with Juventus tonight. It does finish 0-0 on the night in Turin, and it was a really interesting game. And of course, the first thing that you have to know in the massive news before the game even started was the fact that Lionel Messi would not be in the starting lineup. Now, from a glance, that was a massive shock. Ernesto Valverde choosing to rest Lionel Messi, and that was proved because he came on in the second half. There's no injury there. There's no injury believed to be with Messi right now. It was simply a technical decision to leave him out of the lineup and rest him for at least that first half to try and get him some rest ahead of that big game on Sunday at the Mestalla against Valencia. But I think the way that we dealt with the game was very interesting, and before the game I was really excited actually. Although I was disappointed Messi wasn't playing, I still wanted to see how we were going to adapt without him, how we were going to set up, what the midfield would be like, and most importantly, how effective we would be in attack. It was expected that Paulinho would play a little bit more advanced than usual. He would be almost a false 9, false 10, whatever you want to call him. He would be in that central role and a bit more advanced. Suarez was there as well, and so of course was Gerard Deulofeu. And the way the game started was very interesting, and today I have to say I was very surprised with the approach of Juventus, because although tonight it's ended 0-0, a lot of people will probably say we were quite boring tonight, we didn't really penetrate Juventus, and in a lot of areas that's quite true. We didn't really show tonight that nail-biting passing. It wasn't brilliant in the final third. We didn't really have that cutting edge. But the one thing I was surprised about was the fact for the most of the game, Juventus was sat in very deep. A lot of the game they spent with all of their players in their own half. They were very happy to sit deep, defend, almost park the bus in some areas, and it was surprising because I was expecting them to come out in front of their own fans. They lost on the weekend. I was expecting them to come out with a bit more of a point to prove, try and win this game, try and take the game to us, because even though they've drawn tonight, they're not officially through until the last day when we face Sporting and they face Olympiacos. So it was really interesting tonight. Although we didn't play so well, you've got to take into account as well, Juventus tonight were surprisingly defensive and they seemed almost happy to stick with a draw, and that was basically how the game went. I think both teams at the end of the day would have taken a draw. Going into the game, we knew that even if we lost, it wouldn't necessarily be the end of the world. We were always going to finish top of that group simply because of our superior head-to-head record with Juventus and our goal difference as well. So a draw gives us that official group crowning. We're going to finish top of the group, and it wasn't great tonight, but at the end of the day we got the job done. We got what was needed. We didn't lose, so the momentum, the confidence continues. It was an interesting display. I think tonight Valverde used it as sort of a game to experiment a few things. Certainly in that second half when Messi came on, we also saw Jordi Alba come off the bench and play with Lucas Digne, which was very strange for me. We saw Paulinho in a few different positions, and we also saw the midfield with Rakitic, Iniesta and Busquets as a 3. And I must say, the thing about this game for me was the performances of Sergio Busquets and Andres Iniesta. They, for me tonight, even though the team itself wasn't fantastic, even though we didn't create a lot of chances tonight, you have to highlight those two players who, for me, were absolutely sensational. The way that Busquets patrolled that midfield on the ball, the way that Iniesta, caressed the ball, he was dribbling with it, he was moving past players, and I really thought those two tonight, particularly Iniesta as well, considering his age, roll back the years. They can still do it at the top level, there's no doubt about that. And even though tonight I think Rakitic's probably a bit under par again, those two in midfield were that good that we didn't need a third midfielder. Those two on their own controlled the game, controlled possession, and even though we didn't create enough chances, we still did have control. We dominated possession, we dominated the passes, and in the end it was only ever us really that were going to win the game. Admittedly, Juventus had their chances. Certainly Paulo Dybala was at the heart of most of the good things they tried to do. I think Umtiti and Piqué on the night completely marked Higuain out of the game. I think he didn't really get a kick, he didn't really have a look in. Ter Stegen was called into action very early on inside the first 2 minutes, and also very much at the end of the game as well. One of the last kicks of the game, Paulo Dybala, a fantastic strike from the edge of the box, his left foot down to Ter Stegen's right, very low, a very good save, which gets us the point. Ter Stegen once again today, even though our defence on the whole was pretty solid, he was called into action and had to make some absolutely vital saves to give us the point that we needed. Another point of reference would be the fullbacks, Semedo and Digne tonight. I thought they were both very impressive. We've seen Semedo in and out of the team in recent weeks. Against Leganes, he was taken off. He probably wasn't at his brilliant best. Tonight, though, just like the home tie against Juventus, I thought he was very good. I thought he was good going forward. I thought he was good defensively. And I thought he managed, once again, Douglas Costa really, really well. Douglas Costa, when he was on the wing, didn't have a kick. A few times he came inside and caused a few problems. But out wide, Semedo dealt with him really, really well. And exactly the same has to be said on the other side with Lucas Digne. I thought he marshalled Cuadrado. Cuadrado was actually taken off in the second half simply because he could not get into the game. Digne read everything really well. He was very, very good in his tackle, and he was decent going forward as well. The only thing I think wrong with Digne's performance tonight, he was very good overall, but there was one chance, wasn't there? When Lionel Messi eventually came on in that second half, there was a definite change to our game. We were a bit more decisive in the final third. Things got moving a bit quicker. There was a bit more of an edge to our game. Messi came on, produced an absolutely stunning pass, defence-splitting pass. Barzagli couldn't get onto it. Digne was round the back. He was in on goal with Buffon, and he unfortunately decided to try and square it to Luis Suarez. He was unselfish in his play. He didn't take it on himself. He tried to make the chance easier by giving it to Suarez. In doing that, though, the ball was sadly intercepted. Had Digne been a bit more selfish, gone for goal himself, we may well have got away with a win there. But that was the one moment in the second half when we were played in, and it was a real chance for Digne. In terms of the strikers, Suarez, Deulofeu was playing wide, but very high up the pitch. I thought a few times Deulofeu got into good positions. You know, he got to the byline, he took on Alexander quite a few times, but when he was getting into those positions, he's putting balls in the box. Sometimes they were inaccurate, agreed, but I think sometimes he was putting them into good areas, but there simply wasn't enough movement. Paulinho, Suarez needed to be getting in those positions and trying to make those runs and getting on the end of those balls. That didn't really happen. We didn't really commit enough members, which kind of makes me believe maybe we were happy to settle with the point. I think Juve were definitely happy with it, and I think once we saw that, we were pretty much happy at the end of the game to sort of see it drift away, get the point on the board, and sort of go home to Barcelona without any confidence being dented, without really overstretching ourselves, and playing okay. It wasn't bad, it wasn't terrible, it wasn't brilliant, it wasn't really exciting, but at the end of the day, a 0-0 draw against Juventus isn't the end of the world. We've certainly been able to sort of rest Messi. How that'll impact us going into Sunday's game will be really interesting to see. Will we see now a really fresh Messi going into that game? We're going to have to wait and see. I think Suarez tonight, you have to say, probably one step back for him, unfortunately. He was good against Leganes, he got his 2 goals, he got a bit of confidence going. Tonight, though, his first touch again, letting him down at times. The same could be said of Paulinho. Both of them were trying to get into advanced positions, both of them trying to get into those goal-scoring positions, but like I say tonight, not really enough created for them, not really enough chances that we had on goal. I think in general, though, the team that was put out there without Lionel Messi, they tried, they worked hard, they tried to keep hold of the ball. Like I say, the two that you would highlight would definitely be Busquets and Iniesta. I thought Piqué and Umtiti were good at the back. I thought the fullbacks were good. We weren't quite good enough in attack, but the midfield tonight, aside from maybe Rakitic, who's a bit under par, those two in midfield really did run the show. And I am going to talk a lot more about the individual performances, the likes of Ter Stegen, Umtiti, the players who we've spoken about in this video. I'm going to talk a lot more in depth about those in the player ratings video, which is going to come up after this video. In the first half as well, it is worth pointing out that we did hit the post. It was a free kick coming in for Ivan Rakitic, both Busquets and Paulinho going for the ball. None of them really trying to get on the end of it. They didn't quite get a solid touch. There wasn't quite enough on it to get it past Buffon, and it ended up hitting the post, and that was probably the closest we came in the entire match to breaking that deadlock. Throughout the game, to be honest, there was a lot of players going down, there was a lot of fouls, there was a lot of niggly challenges from Juventus. I was getting a bit worried at some point with a few challenges that were going into Samuel Umtiti, particularly because, of course, Piqué is still suspended for that Valencia game on the weekend. Mascherano is out injured, Vermaelen wasn't risked tonight. We're going to need Umtiti and Vermaelen on the weekend against Valencia to really play well and certainly really be fit. But overall tonight, a 0-0 draw. We are the group winners. It wasn't fantastic, but at the end of the day, the players that were out there did what they could. We weren't bad. We will take it. Leave your thoughts down below, guys. Ernesto Valverde taking a very big risk in putting Lionel Messi on the bench to start the game. Did it pay off? We'll have to wait and see until Sunday. All we need to know is we didn't lose the game tonight. I wouldn't say we played to draw the game, but that's just the way that it finished up. They did their best. There were some good individual displays, but eventually the cutting edge just wasn't there. The desire wasn't really there from either team. Juventus came for the draw. We got the draw. We're group winners, and I will see you very shortly. But until then, as always, Vesca el Barça. Barça!